There is a difference between being kind and being used, and if you are over 60, there is a very good chance that you have been confusing the two for most of your life, because you were raised to give, you were raised to help, you were raised to put other people's needs ahead of your own and call it virtue. And it is a virtue. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a human being can carry. But kindness without boundaries is not kindness. It is an invitation. An open door with a sign that says, "Take what you need." And the people walking through that door are not always people who deserve what they find on the other side. Some of them are good people who are grateful for your generosity. But some of them are not. Some of them have learned that your door is always open, and they have started treating your home like a supply closet. They come when they need something, they take what they need, and they leave without restocking a single shelf. And you let them. Because you are kind, and kind people don't lock the door. Kind people don't keep count. Kind people don't ask for anything in return. And that right there is how kind people get destroyed. I have been that person. I want you to know that before I go any further. I am not standing on a mountain looking down at you telling you what you're doing wrong. I am standing right beside you because I did the same thing for decades. I gave until I was empty, and then I gave some more because someone was still asking and I didn't know how to stop. My grandmother saw it in me when I was young. She said, "You have a generous heart. That is a gift. But if you don't learn to close your hands sometimes, people will take the fingers too." I didn't listen. Not then. It took me 40 years and more losses than I want to count before I understood what she meant. The fingers too. Not just what you're holding. The hand itself. The ability to hold anything at all. That is what unchecked kindness costs you. Not just your resources, your capacity, your ability to care for yourself, your ability to feel anything other than tired. Today I want to tell you about 5 people who are taking advantage of your kindness right now. 5. And I want you to listen not with your guilt, but with your gut, because your gut already knows who they are. Your gut has been trying to tell you for years. You just haven't been listening because the guilt is louder. The first person is the adult child who treats you like an ATM. I know this one hurts. I know you don't want to hear it. But I have to say it because it is the most common form of exploitation happening to older people in this country, and it is happening inside families that look perfectly normal from the outside. This is the child who calls when they need money. Not every time. They are smarter than that. They call sometimes just to chat, just enough to keep the relationship warm, just enough to maintain the pipeline. And then the ask comes. It might be direct. "Mom, I need help with the rent this month." Or it might be indirect. "The grandkids need new shoes and I'm just so stressed right now." And either way, the result is the same. You reach for your wallet. You pull from your savings. You skip something you needed so that they can have something they wanted. And you do it because you love them. And because saying no to your own child feels like cutting off your own arm. I knew a man named Howard who gave his son over $40,000 over a 12-year period. $40,000 on a retirement income. Howard ate store brand everything. Howard drove a truck with 200,000 miles on it. Howard put off dental work because he couldn't afford the copay. And his son drove a new car. His son took vacations. His son ate at restaurants 3 times a week. And every time Howard gave him money, the son said the same thing. "Thanks, Dad. I'll pay you back." 12 years, $40,000. Not 1 cent returned. And when Howard had a stroke at 79, his son showed up at the hospital, and the first thing he asked the nurse was whether Howard had life insurance. Not "How is he?" Not "Is he going to be okay?" Is there life insurance? Howard's kindness didn't buy him a devoted son. It bought him a creditor waiting for the account to close. That is what happens when kindness has no boundary. It doesn't create love. It creates dependency. And dependency is not love. Dependency is a leash with a $sign on the end. The second person is the friend who only calls when they're in crisis. Everyone has this friend, the one who disappears for weeks or months at a time and then suddenly resurfaces with a problem so urgent that it consumes your entire afternoon. Their marriage is falling apart. Their health is failing. Their finances are in shambles, and they need you. Right now. Not tomorrow. Now. And you drop everything. You cancel your plans. You sit on the phone for 2 hours listening to the same story you've heard 15 times before. You offer advice they won't take. You offer help they won't accept. You pour your energy into a hole that has no bottom. And then the crisis passes. Or it doesn't pass, but they find someone else to dump it on, and the phone goes silent again. Until the next crisis, and the cycle repeats. I want to ask you something about this person, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Have they ever called to ask about your crisis? Have they ever sat on the phone for 2 hours while you talked about your fear, or your loneliness, or your pain? Have they ever driven across town at 11 at night because you needed them? If the answer is no, then what you have is not a friendship. It is a service agreement. You are providing emotional labor for free, and the other party has no obligation to return it because there was never an agreement that they would. You volunteered for this. You volunteered by answering the phone every time, by listening every time, by showing up every time. And now the pattern is so deep that breaking it feels like betrayal. But it is not betrayal to stop giving to someone who has never given back. It is sanity. It is survival. It is the first act of self-respect that you have performed in that relationship. My grandmother used to say that some people are like clouds. When they show up, everything gets dark. And when they leave, the sun comes back. Think about the people in your life. Who are the clouds? Who are the people that when you see their name on your phone, your stomach drops? When you hear their car pull into the driveway, your shoulders tighten. When they start talking, you can feel the energy being pulled out of you like air being sucked from a room. Those are the clouds. And you have been standing in their shade for too long. Step into the sun. Even if it means stepping away from people you care about. The sun is where you heal. The shade is where you fade. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been pulling out of these old ways, the teachings about protecting your kindness, about recognizing who is using you, about building boundaries in your final years, I have written it all down. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. It is called The Native Way. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. But stay right here, because the next 3 people I am about to describe are the ones hiding in plain sight. This friend does not value you. This friend values what you provide: a listening ear, a warm voice, a safe place to unload their chaos without judgment. You are their emotional dumpster. And I use that word deliberately because that is exactly what is happening. They are dumping their emotional waste on you and walking away lighter while you stand there holding the bag. And the worst part is that if you called them with your crisis, if you called them at 2 in the morning crying because you were scared or lonely or hurting, they would not answer. Or they would answer and give you 5 distracted minutes before steering the conversation back to themselves. You already know this. You know it in your gut. You have always known it. You just didn't want to admit it because admitting it means admitting that a friendship you valued for decades was never what you thought it was. I knew a woman named Shirley who had a friend named Diane for 30 years. 30 years. And Shirley was always the strong one, the one who listened, the one who showed up, the one who drove across town at 11 o'clock at night because Diane was having a breakdown about something that could have waited until morning. And Shirley did it without complaint because that is what friends do. Until Shirley's husband passed. And Shirley needed Diane for the first time in 30 years, and Diane came to the funeral. She brought flowers, she hugged Shirley. She said, "Call me any time." And Shirley called. Once, twice, 3 times. And every call was shorter than the last. And by the 4th call, Diane didn't pick up. And Shirley sat in her empty house holding a phone that had rung 1,000 times for Diane, and realized that the friendship had never been mutual. It had always been one-directional. Shirley was the giver. Diane was the taker. And when the giver needed to receive, for once, the taker was gone. 30 years. Gone. Because the friendship was never built on love. It was built on convenience. And Shirley's convenience had expired. The third person is the family member who guilts you into everything. This is the sibling who says, "After everything Mom and Dad did for us, you can't even host Thanksgiving this year." This is the daughter who says, "I guess I'll just figure out childcare myself since you're too busy." This is the cousin who says family is supposed to be there for each other, but only when there means being there for them. Guilt is the weapon of choice for people who cannot get what they want through honest communication. Instead of saying, "I need help," they say, "You should help." Instead of asking, they imply. Instead of being direct, they make you feel like a bad person for having limits. And you, because you were raised to believe that family comes first no matter what, you swallow the guilt and you comply. Every time. Even when it costs you sleep. Even when it costs you money. Even when it costs you health. Even when it costs you the very peace you have been trying to protect. I knew a woman named Loretta whose daughter was a master of guilt. Not the screaming kind, the sighing kind. The kind who says, "Oh no, it's fine, Mom, I understand, you need your rest," in a tone that makes it absolutely clear that it is not fine. That sigh, that pause, that carefully constructed disappointment that is designed to make you feel like a failure without the other person having to say a single harsh word. Loretta's daughter had perfected it, and Loretta responded to it the way a trained animal responds to a signal. The sigh came, and Loretta jumped. Every time. She hosted holidays she couldn't afford. She babysat when she was exhausted. She drove across town in the rain to deliver things that could have waited. She did all of it not because she wanted to, but because the alternative was the sigh, the disappointment, the cold shoulder that lasted just long enough to make Loretta panic and overcompensate with even more giving. That is not a family relationship. That is a hostage situation. And the ransom is paid in kindness that the hostage can't afford. My grandmother had a word for people who use guilt to control others. She called them heart thieves. She said they don't steal your wallet. They steal your will. They reach inside your chest and they squeeze until you say yes, just to make the squeezing stop. And she was right. That is exactly what guilt manipulation feels like. A squeeze, a tightening, a pressure that builds until compliance feels like the only way to breathe. But it is not the only way to breathe. You can breathe without complying. You can feel the guilt and still say no. The guilt will not kill you. It will pass. It passes every time, like a wave. It rises and it crashes, and it pulls at your legs, and then it retreats. And you are still standing, wet, shaken, but standing. The guilt cannot knock you over unless you let it. The fourth person is the one who keeps score. This is the person who does something for you and then holds it over your head for the rest of your life. I lent you money in 2004. I drove you to the hospital that time. I watched your kids when you needed me. I was there for you when nobody else was. And every time they bring it up, every time they pull that receipt out of the drawer and wave it in your face, they are telling you something. They are telling you that their kindness was never free. It was a transaction, an investment that they expect returns on indefinitely. And you, because you are genuinely kind, because your generosity actually was free, you feel obligated. You feel like you owe them. You feel like the debt is real and the balance is growing and you will never be able to pay it off. But the debt is not real. A gift that comes with conditions was never a gift. It was a loan. And a loan that you didn't agree to the terms of is not your responsibility to repay. I had a neighbor named Bill who helped me repair my roof one summer. It took 2 days. I was grateful. I thanked him. I cooked him dinner. I helped him with his fence the following month. I thought we were even. But Bill didn't think we were even. Bill brought up that roof every time he needed something from me for the next 8 years. Can you drive me to the airport? Remember when I fixed your roof? Can you help me move this furniture? Remember the roof? Can you lend me your truck for the weekend? The roof, the roof, the roof. That roof cost me 2 days of Bill's labor and 8 years of mine, because every favor he asked for came with the roof attached to it like a receipt that never expired. And I let it happen because I felt indebted, until one day I said, Bill, that roof was 8 years ago. We've been even for 7 years, and if you bring it up again, I'm going to start billing you for every fence post I helped you set since then. Bill didn't speak to me for a month. And that month was the most peaceful month I'd had in years. Because the silence of an offended scorekeeper is infinitely more pleasant than the noise of a debt that was never real. The next time someone reminds you of what they did for you, look them in the eye and say, I appreciate what you did, and I will not be paying for it for the rest of my life. That is the end of the transaction. The fifth person. And this one is going to surprise you the same way it did in my last video about loyalty. The fifth person taking advantage of your kindness is you. You are taking advantage of your own kindness by never directing any of it toward yourself. Think about that. You have spent a lifetime being kind to everyone around you, cooking for them, caring for them, listening to them, giving to them, sacrificing for them. And how much of that kindness have you turned inward? How many times have you cooked yourself a meal that you actually wanted instead of whatever was easiest? How many times have you bought yourself something just because it made you happy? How many times have you said, I'm going to rest today, and actually rested without guilt? The answer for most of you is almost never. You have been kind to the entire world and cruel to yourself. Not intentionally cruel, but cruel by neglect, by deprioritizing yourself so consistently for so long that you forgot you were a person who deserves kindness too. Not leftovers, not the scraps of energy that remain after everyone else has been served. Real, intentional, deliberate kindness aimed directly at yourself. Let me tell you something that might shock you. The reason people take advantage of your kindness is because you take advantage of it first. You set the standard. You showed them that your kindness was unlimited and free and available to anyone at any time with no conditions. You trained them, not with words, with behavior. Every time you skipped a meal so someone else could eat, every time you said, I'm fine when you were falling apart, every time you laughed off your own pain so you could focus on someone else's, every time you put yourself at the bottom of your own list, you were sending a message to the world, I don't matter as much as you do. And the world believed you. The world took you at your word, and it treated you accordingly. I want to tell you about my aunt who lived to be 92. And the reason she lived to 92 is because at 65 she made a decision. She said, I am going to start treating myself the way I treat the people I love. And she did. She cooked herself beautiful meals, not fancy meals, beautiful ones, with care, with attention, with a plate that was set properly even though she was eating alone. She bought herself flowers every Sunday, not because someone told her to, because she liked flowers, and she decided she didn't need to wait for someone else to bring them. She took herself on walks, not for exercise, for pleasure. She stopped and looked at things, trees, birds, clouds, the way the light changed in the afternoon. She gave herself permission to enjoy her own life. And that self-directed kindness, that decision to stop pouring from an empty cup and start filling it first, that is what kept her alive and bright and full of light for 27 more years. She didn't stop being kind to others. She just started including herself on the list, at the top, not the bottom, the top. And I want to tell you what changed when she did that. The people around her changed. Her children started treating her differently, not because she demanded it, because she was different. She carried herself differently. She spoke differently. She had a fullness to her that she hadn't had before. And people respond to fullness the way they respond to emptiness. When you are empty, people take from you because there is a vacuum, and nature fills a vacuum. But when you are full, people respect you because there is no room for their demands. The fullness itself is the boundary. You don't have to build a wall. You just have to fill the space that the wall would have occupied with your own life, your own joy, your own peace. And the takers, one by one, will find other wells to drink from. Not because you pushed them away, because there is no room for them anymore. You have finally taken up the space in your own life that you have been giving away to everyone else for decades. My grandfather told me once that a well that only gives water and never receives rain will eventually run dry. And a dry well is useful to nobody, not even itself. You are the well, and the rain is the kindness you give yourself. Without it, there will be nothing left to give anyone. So the most generous thing you can do, the most selfless thing you can do, is to be kind to yourself first. Not instead of others, before others, so that when they come to the well, there is water to draw. Clean water, full water. Water that comes from a source that is replenished and alive. Not a muddy trickle from the bottom of a well that has been drained by everyone who ever showed up with a bucket and a need. You have been the well for everyone. It is time to be the rain for yourself. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way. 20 teachings, 100 pages. Written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter. Sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which of these 5 people did you recognize in your life before I even finished describing them? I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.